Welcome back to Rewire to Restore. I'm so glad you're here, especially if you clicked on this one because something in the title landed a little too close to home. Because here's the truth. This is the episode almost nobody else makes. Everyone wants to talk about the breakthrough, the transformation, the after photo. Almost nobody wants to talk about week 6 of your healing when you snap at someone you love the same way you did before you started this work. And you think, did any of this actually change anything? It did. And today I want to show you why the hard weeks are not a sign that you're failing. They are very often a sign that you're exactly where healing asks you to be. Today we're covering 4 things. First, the actual physiology of why dysregulation flares during healing. Not despite the work, but often because of it. Second, a deeper look at the transitional transformer pattern and the very particular grief that comes with letting go of an old identity, even one that was exhausting you. Third, self-compassion, not as a nice idea, but as a nervous system tool with a measurable physiological effect. And fourth, how to use your natal chart and traditional Chinese medicine's seasonal wisdom to understand the waves you're in so you can move with them instead of against them. If you take one thing from today, let it be this. Your nervous system does not heal in a straight line, and it was never going to. A dysregulated nervous system didn't get that way overnight, and it doesn't recalibrate overnight either. Healing moves in a spiral, not a line. You circle back through familiar territory again and again, but each time you're meeting it from a slightly different place. The old pattern shows up, but you notice it faster. You still get activated, but you find your way back to regulation sooner than you used to. That's not failure. That is quite literally what progress looks like in a nervous system. The spiral is the process, not a detour from it. Let's talk about why the flare happens. Because there is real physiology here, not just a metaphor. When you begin regulating your nervous system through breath work, boundaries, rest, whatever your practice looks like, you are asking a system that has spent years, sometimes decades, running on hypervigilance to consider a different way of being. And a nervous system that has equated vigilance with safety does not release that pattern quietly. There's a concept from behavioral science called an extinction burst. Right before an old pattern fully fades, it often intensifies. The nervous system, sensing the old strategy is being phased out, essentially tries harder. One last, louder attempt to keep you safe the way it knows how. This is why so many people feel worse right before they feel better. It's not a step backward. It's often the pattern's last stand. On top of that, as your baseline stress load drops, you regain enough capacity to finally feel things you were too depleted to feel before. Old grief, old anger, old exhaustion. It surfaces not because healing created it, but because healing gave it room to finally be felt. I want to reframe the word resistance for you because I think it gets used against people constantly in wellness spaces. Resistance is not evidence that you don't want healing badly enough, or that you're self-sabotaging, or that you lack discipline. Resistance is your nervous system's honest report that something about the piece and this pace, the amount or the timing of this change feels unsafe to the part of you that is still keeping watch. When resistance shows up, when you skip the practice you know helps you, when you pick the old fight instead of the new pause, the useful question isn't what's wrong with me, it's what is this protecting me from? And does it still need to? Sometimes the answer is not anymore. And that recognition, spoken gently to yourself, is often enough to soften the grip. This slow season shows up in a particular way for the transitional transformer pattern. So let's spend real time here. The transitional transformer carries a Pluto and Saturn signature, the astrology of profound structural change, the death and rebirth cycle that mirrors the menopausal passage itself. If this is your pattern, healing was never going to feel like gentle improvement. It was always going to feel like an ending, because in a very real sense, it is one. Here is what almost nobody tells this pattern. You are allowed to grieve the identity you're releasing, even if that identity was the one keeping you exhausted. The woman who could handle anything, who never needed help, who held it all together, she kept you safe for a long time. Letting her go, even in service of something truer, is still a loss. And a loss deserves grief, not just gratitude for the growth on the other side. Saturn asks this pattern to build real structure for who you're becoming. Pluto asks you to fully release who you were first. Those two forces working at once is precisely why this pattern's healing can feel like being dismantled and rebuilt simultaneously, because astrologically, that's exactly what's happening. If this is you, the slow season isn't a sign the transformation stalled. It's the composting phase every real transformation requires. Now, let's talk about self-compassion, because I don't want you to hear that word and file it under nice but not necessary. Self-compassion is one of the most direct nervous system regulation tools available to you, and it works through a specific physiological pathway. Harsh self-criticism activates a threat response. Your body treats your own inner voice the way it would treat an external attacker, releasing the same chemistry, that stress chemistry. Self-compassion, by contrast, activates the ventral vagal system, the branch of your nervous system responsible for feelings of safety and connection. Research on self-compassion practices shows measurable increases in heart rate variability, which is a key marker of nervous system flexibility, along with reduced cortisol response. In plain terms, when you speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love during a hard week, your body registers safety. And a nervous system that registers safety is a nervous system that can finally stop bracing long enough to actually heal. So during a flare week, the most productive thing you can do is often the simplest. Place a hand on your chest and say, "This is a hard moment, not a failed life." That sentence is not a platitude. It's a regulation practice. Your natal chart can help you make sense of why certain weeks feel harder than others. Not to explain away the difficulty, but to give it context. Transiting Saturn contacts to your natal chart tend to bring the heaviest, slowest feeling weeks. Saturn is asking you to build something durable, and durable things take time. Transiting Pluto contacts bring the weeks that feel like something is being dismantled at the root. These are rarely comfortable, but they are almost always significant. And full moons, for nearly everyone, tend to intensify whatever is already active. If you're mid-flare during a full moon, that timing is not a coincidence. The 3 questions I'd invite you to ask your chart during a hard week are simple. What planet is active right now? What is it asking me to release or to build? And has this transit passed through my chart before? What did I learn last time? Your chart won't remove the hard week, but it will tell you it's not random. It's not personal failure, and it will pass because transits, by definition, do. Traditional Chinese medicine offers a parallel wisdom here. Nothing in nature heals or grows in a straight line either, and TCM never expected it to. Each season carries its own organ system and its own emotional terrain. Late summer, ruled by the spleen and stomach, governs transition itself. The ability to digest change, literally and figuratively. When you're moving through a slow season, this is often the organ system asking for support. Warm, cooked, easily digested foods, consistent meal times, less mental overstimulation. Autumn, ruled by the lungs and large intestine, governs letting go and grief, which makes it the season most aligned with the Transitional Transformer's work of release. If your hard work lands in autumn, your body and the season are, in a sense, grieving together. TCM doesn't ask you to push through a difficult season. It asks you to recognize which internal season you're in and to tend it the way you tend a garden in that same season outside. Not forcing blooms in winter, but trusting that winter is doing necessary work underground. So practically, What do you do when you're in one of these weeks? A few things I'd offer. Lower the bar for the week. Maintenance, not momentum, is the goal during a flare. Return to the most basic regulation tool you have. Breath, movement, rest, rather than reaching for something new. Name it out loud to yourself or someone safe. I'm in a flare week. This is temporary. Track the pattern. Flares that repeat around the same chart transit or the same season are data, not doom. Ask for support rather than white knuckling it alone. This is not a solo sport. Let's bring it together. Healing spirals rather than runs in a straight line, and flares are often a sign of progress, not its absence. Resistance is information about safety, not a character flaw. If you carry the transitional transformer pattern, the grief you feel in letting go is real and deserves space, not just gratitude for what's ahead. Self-compassion is a physiological regulation tool, not a soft consolation. And both your chart and the season around you can help you understand the wave you're riding so you can work with your timing instead of against it. If you're in a slow season right now, I want you to hear this clearly. You have not undone your progress. You are not back at the beginning. And you do not have to figure out what this flare means or how to move through it by yourself. This is exactly the support the Life Force Reclamation Program is built to provide. Not a program that assumes your healing will be linear, but one that expects the flares, plans for the slow season, and walks with you through all of it. Root cause nutrition, nervous system tools, and the astrology, TCM, and Ayurvedic wisdom to help you understand your own timing, all in one place with real support around you. You don't have to navigate this alone. Come find your place in the program. The link is below. Wherever you are in your healing this week, whether it feels like momentum or like mud, thank you for staying with it and for staying with yourself. Next week, we bring the whole series together in week 12, your restoration blueprint, building a life that doesn't break you. The integration episode where everything we've covered becomes the way you actually live. Until then, be gentle with yourself. The slow season is still the healing. I'll see you next week.